What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 82. And tonight we're going to talk about the week that was in week 12. This will be part one, part two to come later this week. Tonight, with me, as always, our commissioner, my best friend, and now one of four members of the Bigs to have these awesome shirts that we got from Jason Ashby last night. Benji, how are we to this evening?
Doing great, Joe. It was a fantastic time at the ballpark. Great time being with friends and got to talk about the bigs a little bit and a brutal game that was yesterday, but it was still an awesome experience for all of us. And I hope we get more opportunities to have those kinds of occasions because when you're at the ballpark and when you're with friends, you kind of just forget about everything else, all your issues, all your cares. They're they're in the back burner for a little bit because all that matters is the time that's now at that point. So happy to be talking about week 12, man. It's flying by right now. So it was just another crazy week. And I would say that the standings, they're not separating, they're tightening up as usual. So Joe, as always, my friend, lead it off.
Let's get going, boys. Week 12 was an interesting one, Benjamin. We're gonna kick it off with yours, and yours was the surprise this week. We got a 12-6 double up from Henry Collins. How do you feel after this one, man?
I don't feel too great about it. I kind of anticipated something feeling like it was going to go south, Joe. I'd have to go back and look, but it just seems like I've just been really getting trounced on Sundays. I can recall maybe two where they kind of fell in my favor, but in general, it just feels like Sunday either I have a good week and my opponent just has that much better of a day,
Mm-hmm.
or I have an awful day and my opponent has a good day, or I have an awful day and my opponent has a slightly less awful day. But in general, it was one of those feelings that I kind of knew going into the day. I look at the lineup and this is not going to work. Like, I just feel like it's just going to be another day like this. And I'm sure I'm speaking for other opponents, other guys in our league. When you look at the lineup and you look on Sunday or any particular day, you just look at the lineup and you look at the score and you're like, yeah, everything is gettable. The score is tight. A lot of stats that I can flip or that I'm ahead, I should be able to hold, but I just have a bad feeling about this. And
Mm-hmm.
usually your gut instinct is correct. And usually mine has been, at least for this season. So it was hard to swallow, but I had already accepted it kind of as the days were going. I was just like, you know what? I'm just too hot right now. So I'm gonna cool down, or he's so cold, he's just gonna heat up one day. And alas, it's what happened. Just another week.
Yeah, just a rough Sunday here. Let's take a look here of what happened on Sunday. You guys were tied in triples, and Henry got that one. He got the homer that you guys were tied in. He tied RBIs. You had a one RBI lead going in. You also had a two-win advantage, and we're going to talk about the actual pitching Sunday that Henry put together here because that is what was more surprising. Granted, a triple and an extra bomb on Sunday is always nice, but he threw three more wins than you and still tied up the saves category at the same time. So this is one of those five category swings that are actually quite larger when you look at what had to happen in order for it to happen. Benji, close categories this week. You won by the two errors, 18 ticks on the batting average, 15 ticks on the on base percentage. Henry won by the triple, the homer, and the win. And you guys tied in doubles, RBIs, and saves. Just a really weird week for you, honestly. When I look at the end of the week here, you won a couple of first of all, winning errors is not something you're doing often, but you're certainly managing toward trying not to lose it. That
Yeah,
sound about right?
absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
And then batting average, on base percentage, that's what your team is made up to do. But then we've got saves as a tie and wins gets taken from you. It was And you pitched well, a 3.29 ERA over 79 and a third innings. That's very unlike you. What was it that took you out of the normal inch to the minimum strategy this week?
Okay, great question. So on Tuesday, I believe, I decided to bench Ranger Suarez against the Atlanta Braves. And he pitched brilliantly. I believe it was 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned. And once I realized that those 6 innings weren't going to be gotten, I was going to have to get them in another way. And the next day I said, you know what, this is probably not going to work, but I could use the innings. I could use the strikeouts. I'm going to be chasing them the whole way. Maybe he gets a win somehow because the Mets had won the day prior. So maybe they're heating up. And I started Tyler McGill against the Houston Astros on Wednesday. And that blew up in my face. Expected, practically expected. But let me just keep on just grabbing innings, find a way to get innings. I can't lose that stat at this point. And I just didn't stop, Joe. I just kept on every day. There was just another starting pitcher that I was like, okay, that's a reasonable matchup. Let me just go for it. Johnny Burrito. You'll go through my ads as we get further into the matchup. But in general, I was basically throwing darts and getting them right for the most part. Maybe not getting wins, but either avoiding a loss or having a nice enough ERA or a nice enough whip, but not really striking out guys with my innings. Like, as you can see, 79 innings pitched, 63 strikeouts, hardly even close to a strikeout in an inning. So as that continued throughout the week, I was thinking, you know what? He's not going to have to do that much to win strikeouts, but got to just keep on pushing for those innings. And as you can see, I only won innings by 8 1/3, even with all the streaming that I did. So, I had to keep going. If I can just, move away from your question for a little bit to just say that there are certain categories, like you said, that my team is built for, like on base percentage, average, walks, relief appearances. I won all of those. And saves, I tied those. So say if Ben's team is built on 5 categories, walks, average, on base percentage, saves, not so much anymore, but relief appearances, I won 4 of them and tied the other and grabbed 2 other stats, which was errors and innings pitched. It's just,
it just wasn't
everything else.
Everything else was a coin flip. Well, a lot of the rest was a coin flip, and it did take an incredibly savvy Sunday from Henry in order to get where he was. Let's take a look at what it was for you, Benji. This is one of the best bench lines I've seen all season so far, man.
Thank you.
It's 2 for 33.
I don't know. Is it under 100?
Yep.
Is it 088?
It's 061.
Yeah. No, I felt, dude, like, and before we get really far into it, I'll just say, like, I'm just looking at myself like, I don't know how much better I could have managed. If you want to say, wow, you should have just started Ranger Suarez against the Braves, anyone would have done that. He's been hot lately.
No.
Or like, once you did that, well, you should have benched Tyler McGill against Houston. Like, no, not necessarily. I feel like it's just that you could manage your ass off and basically get it right, and it still doesn't matter because the players still have to execute, and they have to execute at the time that you need them to.
You're right. With that 061 batting average, you left a run, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and 12 strikeouts on the bench. The 2 RBIs obviously hurt, but realistically, like you said, man, it's a 1 for 3 with an RBI and 2 walks on Saturday, and you had a 1 for 7 on the bench with an RBI on Friday. It's not as if you didn't manage it as well as you possibly could. You got as much juice out of this squeeze as you possibly could.
Right. And
you missed 2 RBIs.
Right. And one of the ones that you're mentioning on Saturday was Carlos Santana, which I guess I should have played instead of Nathaniel Lowe on Saturday against the Yankees after he had a good day. And it's not like they're facing Garrett Cole on Saturday. So and I played Josh Bell, who got a double. As you can see, with doubles tied, I needed that freaking double. You know, I played Randall Grichuk on Sunday instead of another outfielder that took balls, and he got that double that I needed. So am I really supposed to play Carlos Santana instead of Nathaniel Lowe on Saturday, or instead of Josh Bell? If I do that instead of Josh Bell, I lose doubles. I win RBIs, but I lose doubles. Instead, I tie RBIs and I tie doubles. That's actually better. And I was never considering benching Nathaniel Lowe on Saturday. So I can't get that mad at myself for that kind of stat line on that day.
Yeah. I can't blame you either for one RBI to try to get another category. It's just, this just wasn't the week to do that. Your transactions this week, you added Jose Quas for a clean inning and a relief appearance. Dropped Jimmy Cordero for Aaron Bummer for a bad relief appearance. Dropped Nick Ramirez for Yasmani Grandal over 4 with 2 strikeouts. Dropped Bummer for Kenta Maeda, 5 innings, a win, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. And that guy all of a sudden slots very nicely into this rotation.
Yeah, he's going to have to stay for now as Merrill Kelly joins the IL club.
Exactly. I dropped Tim Hill for the Tyler McGill start, 2 1/3, 4 walks, a 15.43 ERA, a 3.43 WHIP. And then dropped Yasmani Grandal for Steven Wilson for a clean relief appearance. Wilson gets dropped for Brito, 5 2/3, a win, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 53 WHIP. Quas gets dropped for Jay Irvin, 6 innings, a loss, a walk, 6 strikeouts, a 150 and a 1 WHIP. That's another good start from a good starter on a successful Baltimore team. Or is that, no, this isn't the Baltimore guy. This is the Washington guy. Yeah. Okay. Hey, it worked. It worked. It was. They were nice innings, even if you did have to eat well. Johnny Brito gets dropped for my old friend Justin Topa for a cleaning, and Irvin gets dropped for Joey Wentz. 5 innings, a loss, 2 homers, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 5.40 and a 1.80.
Yeah, that was Wentz versus Maeda, because I'm thinking like, well, you know, if Maeda has the best, like maybe I get a win from one of them, because at this point I'm just saying like, let me try to find a way to grab wins, you know, and it is frustrating because with all those starting pitchers I throw, only 5 wins, and I can't get that category because of what happened on Sunday. Sorry, continue.
Right. That's okay. You went Joey Wentz for Osvaldo Bido. What team is he on?
Pittsburgh.
There you go. 5 2/3, a bomb, 5 strikeouts, 3.18 and a 1.59.
Had the lead, and his team couldn't hold it, which was a common theme throughout this week. That these guys, their teams had the lead and the bullpen couldn't hold it, or that they weren't scoring enough for that pitcher in order for me to get that W.
Right. Frank Bucco likes to call it Jacob deGrom syndrome. You pitch your balls off and you can't get any support, or your bullpen just blows a lead for you. John Curtis gets dropped for Michael Lorenzen, 5 innings, a homer, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 3.60 and a 1.60. Your key players this week, Benji, who was your MVP?
Luis Arraez, maybe?
I'll go Juan Soto here. Juan Soto with a 4.80 and a 5.94. 7 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 7 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Pretty nice line there. Kike Hernandez, we're going to name a least valuable player. 1.18 with 18, a stolen base, a strikeout. Lucky this week, no errors. And for the pitching side, Kelly is going to be despite hitting the IL this week. 12 innings, a win, a loss, a bomb, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 4.50 and a 1.33. The Cy Yuck is Tyler McGill. We talked about him. Over to Henry's side here. On his bench this week, Benji, he went 13 for 42.
342.
It was a 310.
Okay.
With 6 runs, a double, 5 homers, 8 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts, and an error. The double plays, the 8 RBIs play, obviously. The easiest one here is on Sunday, he benched Luis Robert with a 2-homer game while playing Luis Perdomo in the utility spot. There's your RBIs right there.
Yeah.
The double shows up. The double showed up on Tuesday. It was Matt Chapman, 2 for 3 with a double and a walk on the bench, and Perdomo again 0 for 4 with a walk and a strikeout at third. So, I don't know how much this guy Perdomo is owed as much playing time over guys like Matt Chapman and Luis Robert. Would you say that's fair?
That's fair, and it's Henry just learning his team still. I mean, we're 12 weeks in, but he's got a lot of different parts, and he probably sees, oh, this guy is hot, this guy is cold. Now this is the time to play him. And by the way, I should say that there is a Billy McKinney home run on the bench. And
there is.
But I think he picked him up after he hit the home run.
Yeah.
Like he saw it happen, and then he's like, let me grab this guy and put him on the bench. So it's actually not stats on the bench, but
it's not in his lineup. Okay, I got you. All right, his moves this week: he dropped Brian De La Cruz for Brian Hoeing, 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, and an 0.75. Dropped Scott Alexander for Drew Carlton for a third of an inning. Dropped Drew Carlton for Billy McKinney, which I mentioned. And you just went over. He picked him up after he saw the homer, so none of that plays in his stats there. Brian Hoeing gets dropped for Jose Soriano, 2 innings, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 1 whip, and a relief appearance. But he picked this guy up on like Wednesday, and he didn't show up until Sunday. It's another one of those, oh man, this guy hasn't pitched in a couple of days. He should be going for his 2 or 3 inning relief appearance here at any point, and you wait all week for it. Yep.
In there.
Yep. He dropped Clark Schmidt for Julian Merriweather for not great relief appearance, but it was clean. He dropped Merriweather for Alex Wood, who was bad with a 16.20 ERA across 3 1/3. He dropped Jamison Tyon for Dre Jamison, 2 innings and a 2 whip. He dropped Alex Wood for Sean Dubin, who did not appear for him. Dropped Nick Fortes for Gary Sanchez, who went 0 for 3. And dropped Dre Jamison for Blake Sable, who went 0 for 3. His key players this week, and it hurts me to do this, man, because he took your team's name from earlier this season, and then Willie Adames just kind of dropped dick on you this week. 467 with a 500, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, and an error. The least valuable hitter is actually Jurickson Profar, 154 with a 214, 3 strikeouts, and only 1 run. And the guy was at home most of the week, so it's kind of surprising that he was that bad. Yusei Kikuchi was the Cy Young. Go figure. 13 innings, a win, a homer, 2 walks, 14 strikeouts, an 0.69 ERA, and an 0.46 whip. And the Cy Young is Alex Wood, whom we already spoke about. Benji, surprise W for Henry, and we'll go ahead and talk about Sunday here now, because this is really what made the difference in the matchup. He threw how many starters? He threw 3 starters, Kikuchi, Cole, and Morton. 2 wins out of those guys, a win out of Devin Williams in the pen, and a save out of John Duran in Minnesota in order to make the tie there. When you see this kind of Sunday, where he could have played Matt Strahm too and gotten another relief appearance out of it, 22 innings, 3 wins, a save, 2 bombs, 7 walks, 28 strikeouts, a 286, and a 118 whip. That's just got to sort of, I don't know, drive home this idea that Sundays may be cursed for you. We saw Frank a couple of weeks ago put up 16 runs and 17 RBIs or something ridiculous like that. Now here it is on the other side.
And I can only think of like two matchups where a triple wasn't hit against me on Sunday as well. That's been happening consistently. Either someone ties triples or they just win it. Like none of us had a triple all week, and then there's the one on Sunday, and it's not me that gets it. Um, he had very favorable matchups on Sunday, having Morton, having Kikuchi, having Cole, like and Kikuchi against the Oakland A's. I was sort of anticipating that, sure, but there was something else that was going on that was making it equally frustrating, and it had nothing to do with Henry. It was more about my team. Like, how about the fact that the San Diego Padres can't find a way to get a lead against the Washington Nationals just for Hader to come in and get another save for me? Or Doval, he gets himself a win on Saturday, but then Arizona wins on Sunday and Doval can't come in. So it was the timing of things. And it's frustrating because sometimes, and I'm sure everyone can attest to this, that it's like, well, why did I get 7 saves this week and I could only get 2 the next week? I needed these things to happen last week when I was close in that category. So, again, it's frustrating, but I don't want to take anything away from Henry, because he set it up this way. And though he has a very ugly bench, and you could say, like, Ben, you really managed well this week and it's just bad luck. Well, that's just how the cards fall sometimes. And it's a double up in this case. And I think it's the best deficit of the entire week amongst all matchups. So I tip my cap to the guy. He's beaten you. He's beaten me. He's over 500. This is his first season. He should be damn proud of himself. I'm so proud of him. And hopefully he can continue this, because either he's going to be a very, very awful spoiler for a team to try to get into the playoffs, or he's going to make a run at this thing. And I do not doubt, with the way he's been pushing, that he could be in the running come week 20, 21, and 22. And at that point, it's just a coin flip. If we're all kind of close and you have a hot Sunday and you hit the nail on the head like this for a 12-6 or a 13-7 win, and that's the result, then you're right in it. And I feel like at this point, because he's been so diligent day to day, and even though a lot of flip-flopping, he's still doing it. He's still putting his brain to, okay, this is the matchup that I'm going with, instead of la-di-da, this is the group. He's and there's something to be said, even though sometimes we've all been there, that we tinker and we overmanage and we lose stats as a result, and they end up playing at the end of the week. There is something to be said every day, focusing on, this is the reason I'm playing this guy over that guy. And he's going to continue to do it. And sometimes he won't be successful, but if he is successful more times than not, he's going to make a run at this.
Yeah. And these are the kind of weeks we're going to see from a guy that's this competitive, that looks to this league as, okay, I belong here. I've proven that I belong here because I've beaten now 7 championships in the last 10, or in the existence of this league. He just took them out in 2 weeks in his first season. Insane. Great management. And to be 1 over 500 in a rookie season this late in the year, congratulations. You put up a great year. Let's see the second half, because the second half is where the moves need to be made. It's where your legacy is made in this league. If you can be competitive up until that time period that you talked about, Ben, week 20, 21, 22, there is Rookie of the Year award written all over it for him. However, these decisions that he makes, and the benching of Luis Robert here is a perfect example of it.
Or Chapman,
yeah. In favor of I don't even know, is Perdomo a guy? On the season, a 296, 5 homers, 32 RBIs, 9 steals. He seems to be the leadoff hitter now for Arizona rather than being the 9 hitter. So I guess that is something. Yeah. Having second, third, and short eligibility is really nice. He's just added to the glom he already has in Bryson Stott, Andres Jimenez, and Willy Adames. There's a trade here. Mm-hmm. I know he has been very, very selective and very patient with this group of guys. There's a trade here. Mm-hmm. An outfielder and an infielder for something.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And we've talked about it a lot and there's been times where he's like, oh, I wish I pulled the trigger here because this guy, is failing or he's on the IL. I think there was like a Mark Leiter opportunity, like he could have traded and gotten something for him. And, but this is all part of the, the learning experience. And him and I talked after the matchup also. And we talked about that triple and he was like, I want that triple. So like I went with Andres Jimenez and I was like, he's a speedster. I'm like, well, geez, Henry, that's a real freaking Hail Mary for a triple. Well, it worked. I'm like, yeah, it worked. It's usually not going to happen. It's not like when he picked up that catcher on the A's and he got the 3 RBIs that he needed to take the category. Like that's more likely to happen than the triple from the speedster. You needed to get the most perfect hit at the most perfect time. But there's something else that we haven't really discussed about Henry that's very, very important. The number 1 waiver spot. He's been very patient. I'm number 2. He's number 1. And I think both of us are kind of waiting for that big star to drop because it's going to happen, whether it's in week 16 or it's in week 18 or it's in week 20. Whenever it's happening, someone's going to need to drop a star because they need a relief appearance, because they need to win innings pitched. And this is the only time to do it. And we're getting close to the end. So it'll be very interesting to see who he uses it and when he uses it. Same with myself. And it was just fascinating that it's the two of us facing each other. We're the number 1 and number 2 on this waiver spot. And I'm sure that's something that he's been thinking about, but it's nice to have that in his back pocket because eventually that big name is going to drop.
Yeah, especially now that we're getting toward the middle of the season. There are stars that have been struggling that at some point you A, can't get any trade value for, and B, can't carry on your roster anymore. And nobody is going to blame you if you drop a big name guy who's hitting 190 in July. But it's that second half of the season, man. Like we've seen it before. We saw Giancarlo Stanton go on a stupid tear in the second half and bring Jay Ferraro to the brink of the playoffs. And at the same time, saw a torrid first half from Aaron Judge in that same season, and then saw him strike out every game for like 30-something games in a row.
Sure. Jay Ferraro in 2006 drops Justin Morneau. And I picked him up, and not only does he win the MVP in 2006, I win the championship with Justin Morneau. So yeah, that eventually, because a guy needs a specific stat, they have to make that drop, or else, they're just going to kick themselves. Because I know I've been there. I'm sure you've been there, and you're just like, you're thinking about it on a Saturday or Sunday and be like, man, like, can I really afford to lose this stat? If I make this ad right now, I will win this stat. But how badly do I need this stat? And how badly do I need this player in a couple of weeks? It's what makes this league very fun when you have to really struggle with those kinds of decisions late in the season.
The later the season gets, the higher the expectations and the higher the pressure on every single one of those moves, Let's jump over to the next matchup here, Benjamin, because it is, in fact, the matchup between your brother Ari and Christian Wood. Christian getting a good 12-7 win here. Did you see anything special in this one?
Yeah, what I found very significant is that I never saw Ari have the lead the entire week. It was Christian holding it down. It was a much bigger lead, of course, and it shrunk a little bit by Sunday. I saw Ari getting aggressive with ads, which I love seeing when he's just trying to chip away, find a way to grab stats. But a very impressive week from Christian to not only have the lead the whole time, but hold the lead and manage to hold the lead.
Yeah, it was a really good week from him. On Sunday, Christian held a 1 home run by a pitcher advantage, and he ended up tying that with Ari. He also had a 2-tick whip advantage, and Ari took that as well. Close categories, Ari wins by 3 runs. The walk, 4 ticks on the ERA, and 11 ticks on the whip. Christian wins by the RBI and 2 saves. And they tied in wins and home runs given up by a pitcher. For Ari on his bench this week, Benjamin, and you know this is always a large number, this one's 19 for 75.
Jeez. 20 for 80, 250. 286.
That's 253. 8 runs, 6 doubles, 2 homers, 11 RBIs, 3 walks, 20 strikeouts, and an error. The RBIs are obviously what plays here, him losing that by 1. Looks like Jake Berger had a home run on the bench on Saturday. He went 7 for 19 with 5 RBIs on the bench on Sunday. So between those 2 days is where I would have liked to see a little bit better. His transactions this week, and you hit on it, he did make a few moves here. Dropped Ezekiel Tovar for Stuart Fairchild, 1 for 2. Dropped Fairchild and Andy Ibanez and added DJ LeMahieu, 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. And added Eugenio Suarez, 2 for 3 with a run, a double, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. He dropped Robbie Grossman for Brian De La Cruz, 1 for 3 with a walk, and a strikeout, and an error. His MVP this week, I'm going to go with Teoscar Hernandez. He only won runs, homers, and walks, and Teoscar Hernandez gave him 2 of those 3. A 240 with a 240, 5 runs, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, and 7 strikeouts. There wasn't anybody who really stood out in the walks department because he had 11 over 7 days and still won. The least valuable hitter, I'm going to split between Matsutake Yoshida and Ryan McMahon. 053 with a 182 for Matsutake Yoshida. 091 with a 200 for McMahon, but McMahon also had 10 strikeouts. The Cy Young is Blake Snell. 6 innings, a win, 11 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 050 whip. The Cy Yuck is Shane Bieber. 5 innings, a loss, a bomb, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, a 720 and a 140. It's a pretty formidable 1-2, and when you add Luis Castillo in as the number 3, it's a damn good top 3 when all 3 are pitching to their potential. On Christian's side here, on his bench, he goes 15 for 48.
Oh, so close, huh?
Yeah.
318?
313. Damn close with 8 runs, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 3 steals, a walk, and 13 strikeouts. And guess what? The walk plays to tie the category. Okay. It's the only thing. It's the only thing that plays. And to be honest, his team didn't really come with a whole lot of power this week. The whole team was supposed to hit 3 homers this week. So that
right.
is that.
Right. And the fact that Ari loses RBIs by 1, then you had for Christian to have such little power this week and still sneak out that category is pretty huge.
Yeah. Only a couple of moves this week by Christian. He added Brock Burke for an inning and a 3rd relief appearance. He added Luis Matos, the new toy in San Francisco that they're rotating in every once in a while. He went 0 for 4. And he dropped Brian Woo for Patrick Sandoval. 5 innings, a homer, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 5.40 ERA, and a 2.20 whip. His MVP this week is Alex Verdugo, who had himself quite a nice week. 357 with a 400 on base percentage, 2 runs, 2 triples, 4 RBIs, and a strikeout. Well done. Well done. Luis Matos is going to be the least valuable hitter. He didn't record a hit. He didn't get on base. He didn't do anything of note. The Cy Young is Mitch Keller. 7 innings, 5 strikeouts, a 1.29 and an 0.71. This is the surprise pitcher of the first half. Is it not?
Yeah, fantastic job. And one of the reasons that his actual baseball team is still in the running, and that division is so up for grabs, man. So this guy has been
Yeah.
huge.
99 innings pitched, 113 strikeouts with a 3.45 ERA in the NL Central. Yeah, that's pretty solid for this season. And you know what? Maybe this is just the most recent Joe Musgrove, Garrett Cole, fill in the blank with the guy before that. Jameson Taillon fits this bill of guys that Pittsburgh will make and then trade off. The Cy Yuck this week, Zach Wheeler, 5 1/3, a homer, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts, an 8.44 and a 2.06. Benji, these guys sit toward the bottom. I do always say that the league is better when Ari Nisman is competitive. The league is better when everyone is competitive. I don't think Christian is going to be an uncompetitive team. I just don't think that this is a good team right now.
No, it hasn't. And this is just one of those weeks where it seemed like basically enough was working together for him to sneak out a win here. I mean, I almost feel badly in a way that he throws to 2.88 ERA and then loses to a 2.84 ERA for Ari. A 1.06 whip should compete and win the category. Ari threw to an under 1 whip. So you get 4 wins and you end up tying that category. You can't muster more than a whole 1 home run. Only 10 walks, a 274 and somehow a 318 on base percentage. You were able to pull that off because Ari, who's usually a wicked offensive team, didn't bring it, and
right.
255 average. I can't hate on Ari too much. I forgot. I feel like maybe I missed it. Who was Ari's Cy Yuck for the week?
It's
So I know
it was Shane Bieber.
It's Shane Bieber. Okay, so that guy didn't bring it. He had a 7.20 ERA, and yet Ari still wins with that 2.84 ERA and a 0.95 WHIP.
And all that is 4 earned over 5 innings.
Yeah,
that's as bad as it could get on this team this week.
Ari's 14 under 500, and this was a matchup that I felt like he needed in order to stay in this thing. I'm not saying that he's out.
No.
That's foolish to think because that Ari is still going to grind it out for these final few weeks, but his schedule doesn't get much easier, and this was a week that I felt like if he doesn't win, he's going to make his life a lot tougher. Christian's season is more than likely over. I mean, there are so many teams that he has to jump and he needs so much help. Like he would have to basically win out and be doubling up guys almost every other week. I just don't see that happening. Not with how competitive the league is this year. So that doesn't mean he's going to stop trying. And as you can tell, like he's still making ads. He's still been decently aggressive, but Ari still, at least I feel like he can still do this thing that he does, which is make these magical runs. It's not an even year. Ari usually gets into the playoffs on an even year, every single even year since 2012 he's been in. So, the laws of averages, you could say, oh, well, it's got to happen sooner or later, or, like this is usually what happens. He has a good year, he has a bad year. So a lot of things have to break his way, but I do believe in Ari to actually make that kind of a run, at least between these two actual managers.
Yeah, and I don't think we're insulting anybody by saying Christian's team is not well put together at this point. It's only now that he's recently added Wander Franco and SDR Ruiz, and we're seeing him sort of recalibrate this thing in hopes of making a run. We'll see if the second half is kind to him. He's going to need, like you said, a lot of help, and there are some other teams toward the bottom at this point that would need a ton of help in order to get up there, up toward a playoff spot.
But let's give him credit for this win, because
absolutely.
Not only was it the ads, but like you mentioned, the trade that really helped him this week. You think about if he didn't make this trade, then one thing that we know for sure, Presley is not on the team. He won saves by 2, and Presley had 2 saves. So he probably ties that category instead of winning it. So I'm tipping my cap to him here because this was a very well-earned win against a very tough manager. Not the type of manager that's super aggressive, but just a very experienced manager. And when Ari doesn't have a 300 average on his bench, when it's only something like 255, like you said,
Yeah.
then you're really fighting against a team that's playing his guys the right way. Ari was playing his strategy as good as he basically could play it, and you still beat him by 5.
Absolutely. Ari does have that extremely long bench. He hit 225 in the lineup and 255 on the bench. So it wasn't as if his team was supposed to explode here.
Right.
Christian played it right. The unfortunate part is that Ari was just that much better on the pitching side. Otherwise, this could have ended up as that 15-2, 14-4 type drubbing that it was absolutely in the week.
That's a great way to look at it, that this could have been Ari's season, if it kind of just stayed the same way as it was on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday. Ari mitigates this to an extent, and therefore his season is still intact. He's in striking distance here. As I look at these standings here, he's
about 12 under?
He's 12 under, but if sixth is 13, he's 13 out of sixth place. 13 out, you can make that up in a month. Yeah. So, obviously he does need help, and he's got Costas this week. So that's a guy that's in front of him that if he beats, he gets some ground on him. He's got Frank the following week, who he has a very good record against. He can catch ground on him. He's got Henry the following week. That's the last week where we play guys that we've never played before. He's in front of him again. He can make ground on him, and then starting again with you, which is going to be a tough week, obviously, after he won the first time against you. But for 3 weeks in a row, he's now going to play guys that are in front of him. So he can control his destiny over the next 3 and really gain some ground if he gets some big wins.
We're going to be chasing all season now, me and Ari. I feel like he and I are going to be kind of linked, and as one goes up, the other might go up as well, because if the other is taking out guys in front of us.
Right.
As we transition to 2 guys that are in front of both of us, we had a pretty nice matchup between Frank Bucco and James McCloskey this week. Ben, what did you see here?
I saw awesome managing from both ends, and probably some of the best managing I've ever seen James McCloskey do, as far as picking guys to click and it falling in his favor. Couple of things, couple misses that maybe I would have done differently, but actually wouldn't have mattered that much in the grand scheme of things. We'll get into it a little bit, but I tip my cap here. James McCloskey really changed his luck. And I think that him missing the minimum against Mike Haber really lit a fire under his ass, for lack of a better phrase. It's really just like, I'm pissed that I'm -4, that I shouldn't have been. And because of that, I'm going to do things differently. And if he doesn't put his pedal to the metal, I don't think he beats Frank this week. This is an extremely impressive win. Very well deserved. But on the same side, when you look at some of these numbers, some of these really gaudy numbers, like 50 RBIs and 37 runs and 15 home runs, you almost, and if I told you he also won ERA, you'd think that this should have been a crushing matchup. But it's only an 11-9 win. So you got to acknowledge how Frank was able to make the most of a very, very tough opponent doing crazy stuff.
On Sunday, man, Frank mitigated a little bit here. He took innings. James had a 4 2/3 innings advantage, but in doing so, Frank gave up 4 walks to tie this category here. So he does flip a category, but he ends up giving half of one back. So
take that.
Close categories this week. Frank wins by 2 steals. James wins by the triple, the save, and 42 ticks on the ERA. They tied in those walks by a pitcher. On Frank's bench, Benjamin, you want to hear this? He didn't have anything. He didn't have a bench this week.
Okay.
So, yay!
Right.
You did it right?
Yeah, you did it right, but he still lost the week. Do you think that not having a bench is beneficial? Do you think there's something to having a bench and being able to play it? Do you think it's more necessary to have a deeper pitching staff? You play with a bench, I play with a bench, most of us play with a bench. So, is it just that he doesn't trust himself making decisions, or does he think that this is it?
I really do think that is it. To the point where he dropped Cody Bellinger outright because he didn't want to make a decision that day. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this. It's succeeded to this point to get him 14 over. But he was playing with a bench up until that point.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same formula we've seen in the past that causes him to drop. He and Ari are like exact opposites. He's the yang to Ari's yin here, where Ari has all the bench and none of the pitching depth. Frank has all the pitching depth and for whatever reason was up until recently trying to buy more. I don't know. I don't know what's the best option here. I know that Ari has made the playoffs with his strategy. Frank has not. That's all I can say there.
Yeah. So I guess it's coming down to these final weeks, and I don't assume that Frank is going to change at this point. If I had to guess, he's going to stick with either no bench or a very light bench, one, maybe two at most, because he does have Mauricio at this point. So does that mean that when Mauricio is activated, he's going to drop someone else if Mauricio is playing every day?
I don't know. At this point, the offense is pretty set in what it is, right?
Yes.
Granted, he lost Brian Reynolds to the IL now, so that does take a hit. But at the same time, he just went and picked up the kid he was streaming for triples in Luis Garcia. He was streaming this kid 4 triples because he gave him more than one. And he gave him another one this week. Well, his ads this week do include Luis Garcia, who gave him the triple, 1 for 4 with the run in the triple. He dropped Angel Perdomo and Sam Long and Dowry Moreta for Danny Columby, who gave him a third of an inning and a relief appearance. And he added Ryan Nelson, 7 innings, a win, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 1.29 and an 0.71. That is the reason he gets the innings win there. But he's not able to get that ERA down quite enough, despite the pretty decent Sunday that he did put up. He did it again. He put up a nice Sunday. On the pitching side, it was 16 2/3 with a 1.69 and 19 strikeouts with 2 wins and a save. Yeah. His team didn't hit where the shit. He hit 162. But he did get a triple on Sunday out of Michael Harris. The problem is McCloskey also got a triple on Sunday from Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. So it was a good enough Sunday to at least grab a stat and make because it was like 12-9 going in. It's 11-9 instead of 12-9 because of the tie walks given up. But he's able to flip innings pitch because he planned it out. And obviously McCloskey wasn't going to go crazy and just pick up starters and break down the team just to maybe try and get those extra innings because maybe the guy that he picks up effing sucks. And then, and then you're in a worse situation. You still lose innings pitch. So
no doubt. Yeah. It was a good week. Frank put himself in a position to try and win. and he mitigates a big loss here against a playoff team or a playoff contending team. The MVP this week is Francisco Lindor, 333 with a 444, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 steals, 5 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter is Kyle Schwarber. He had 10 strikeouts and an error. That's all you need to know about that guy. The Cy Young is Yuri Perez, 12 innings, a win, 18 strikeouts, a walk, nothing earned, and an 0.67 whip. Yeah, I see you getting uncomfortable in your chair.
That is it's a head scratcher. Why don't you say the Cy Young, and then we'll talk about Yuri Perez.
AJ Smith-Shawver is going to be the Cy Young. 3 1/3, 3 bombs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 1350, and a 180. This year's Spencer Strider, he ain't.
Right.
More like Ian Anderson.
Good comp of Braves guys. Who the hell is this guy? Is he the Kyle Wright of last year, or the Kyle Wright?
Or is he the Sean Newcomb of?
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
All right. We're really going through them here. Yep. So So getting back to this trade where Gunnar Henderson goes to you and Yuri Perez, those are the 2 guys that were kind of the afterthoughts, right?
Yes.
Of this trade.
Yes.
And I haven't really been following what Henderson has been doing, what he's been doing for you since the trade. You would be able to tell me, but
he's been fine is the word I'd use. He's fine.
Okay. Would it be better to have Perez at this point? At this point. Okay.
Of course.
Now we're still a long ways away, and we're still talking about the Marlins, right? Mm-hmm. And whether
that's what I'm banking on, right? I'm banking on the idea that they shut him down, that they start to slide, that this team is not this good, and maybe they send this kid to the minors for a bit to limit his innings.
Yeah. All practical thoughts of when you look at teams and what the culture is of very specific teams and what they do. I don't remember the Marlins ever putting a limit on Jose Fernandez. Maybe I'm like,
absolutely they did. I traded for him. Yeah, the last time I was bad was 2013, which was his rookie season.
Yes.
I traded for him at the deadline.
He was the rookie of the year.
Yes. I traded for him at the deadline knowing that he was going to get shut down the 1st of September, and I was already out of the playoff race. And it was, okay, I'll take this guy on, and I'll give a guy that's actually going to finish out the season to a playoff team that's a slightly worse version of what I'm getting back. And maybe if I make a run, great, but it was not going to be. I finished 13th that year.
Okay, so then we've seen the Marlins do it in the past. Obviously, different GM now, different management, different ownership, right? Yeah. But we've kind of known how the Marlins kind of churn it out. They build these guys up and then they trade them away. They basically become prospects for the New York Yankees. But yeah. I respect the decision to not believe in this guy, similarly to not believe in Sandy Alcantara. Just that he's, on the Marlins and he's not really having a good year. And, maybe it was just a flash in the pan for a couple of years, or maybe it's just a bad season. But either way, it's the Marlins. Like, how much can we really believe in them? Is Luis Arraez just really making this such a good team? It's so hard to figure it out right now. But all we know is that this guy Perez, is a central point on this team right now. And if he continues to do this every 5th day, Frank could go to the postseason on this guy's back.
All of a sudden, Frank was looking for an SP2 to replace Chris Sale after Chris Sale went down. And he already had it in the trade that he got with me. This kid is electric. The only thing I would be concerned about is, again, shutting him down in order to preserve him for when they're actually going to be competitive, which can be as early as next year. It can be as early as this year if we're brutally honest, and they push him to the limit, and then Frank's roll into the playoffs on this guy. And the questions that we've had in the past, like, oh, he's going to face Toronto, we should probably make that the test. Yes, 6 shutout innings and 9 strikeouts. His next big test is against Atlanta on the 1st of July in Atlanta. Let's see. I actually want to see this kid succeed. He's been absolutely dynamic. I never expected this from him. I expected him to be good. I did. But this, man. Let's go over to McCloskey's side here, and we'll take a look at what he did this week. On his bench, he went 5 for 28.
Oh, so close. But pretty good. Pretty damn good. 5 for 28. Let's say it's one. If it was 200, then I'll say it's closer to 158, 153.
179.
Okay.
2 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, 6 strikeouts, and an error. His moves this week, because you did mention those. He made a lot of moves this week trying to get some stuff done. And it's an interesting strategy where he's got essentially 3 roster spots that he drops out each day. And then if he needs anything, he fills them back in throughout the week. Sometimes it's all at once, and sometimes it's one at a time. On the 19th, he dropped Gene Segura and Edward Olivares. He added Raimel Tapia, Yainer Diaz, Mike Yastrzemski, and Ha-Seong Kim. In order, those guys: Tapia 0 for 3, Diaz 1 for 4 with a solo bomb, Yastrzemski 3 for 5 with 2 homers, and Ha-Seong Kim 3 for 4 with a steal and 2 RBIs. That is making that shit work for you on a Monday.
Astonishing. And I was watching the Giants game. Just like, wait a minute, did he just hit a bomb? Like, he picked this guy up and he hit a bomb. And then that game you and I were like, okay, Bob Melvin's just an idiot because he saw Tim Hill like cruising and he was like, well, I can't do lefty on lefty. Like, I have to put in somebody else. Let me use Lopez here, who just totally coughed up a 2-run lead. Couldn't use Josh Hader a couple of days in a row for the save. I have to stick with the formula because maybe I'll need Hader tomorrow, even though my team is under 500 and highly underachieving like the New York Metropolitans. But I got it.
Manage for tomorrow.
Got him on and manage for tomorrow. Gives up the 2-run lead. And as a result, Doval is in the game. It ends up getting the win. And then now you're stuck throwing Padres are stuck throwing some other guy. And as a result, Mike Yastrzemski gets an opportunity to hit a walk-off home run, which he did. The Padres lose another one where they had the lead and don't elect to use Josh Hader. And as a result, James McCloskey looks like a genius.
Yeah. He then drops Raimel Tapia for Michael Lorenzen. 6 innings, a loss, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 150 and a 150 whip. He drops Lorenzen for Paul Blackburn. 5 innings, a walk, 7 strikeouts, a 720 and a 2 whip. He drops Mike Yastrzemski and Paul Blackburn. He adds David Hamilton, Tony Kemp, and Alec Thomas. 1 for 3, 0 for 2, 0 for 4. So for as good as it was on Monday, Thursday it wasn't so good.
Right. And I also have to mention that on Tuesday, after Mike Yastrzemski has this big game, he elects to go to him again. And this was the one criticism I have. And I know it seems pretty like I'm nitpicking here, but I feel like you got it on Monday. Now it's time to go back to the regular team. And I'm thinking like Adolis Garcia's on the bench here. And I was just like, you know what? I think I would go back. I would find a way to get Adolis back in the lineup on Tuesday, who did hit a home run on his bench. So if I have to make one criticism, I'd say, listen, it worked for you on Monday. Now go back to the regular team.
When the team hits 15 and drives in 50, you don't have to worry about that too much. But I understand what you're saying here, that like some weeks you're not going to hit 15 and drive in 50, and you'll need that Adolis Garcia homer. So going back to your regulars and going back to your starters, these are the guys that you you drafted this team and crafted it this way. Don't give up on what you've already accomplished.
Right. Just because you had a hot day from this guy. Right. Absolutely.
He dropped all three of the guys I just mentioned, Hamilton, Kemp, and Thomas, and added Patrick Corbin. 5 innings, a loss, 2 bombs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 12.60, and a 2. He was every bit the hand grenade that he is known to be now. Terrible. The MVP this week is Anthony Santander, 381 with a 381, 5 runs, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, and 7 strikeouts. Well, if this is the make Joe feel bad about his trades this year episode, we're succeeding. Adolis Garcia is, however, the least valuable hitter. 190 with a 261, 3 runs, a double, that homer, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts. The Cy Young is Clayton Kershaw. I remember him getting I wouldn't want to say a bunch of shit. I want to say he got like a decent amount of criticism for taking Kershaw as early as he did this year. And we know that Kershaw is usually good for an IL stint. I don't think we've seen it yet. But 7 innings, a win, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, nothing earned, and a 1 whip. Very nice. His teammate, Mr. Tony Gonsolin, 5 innings, 2 homers, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 720 and a 120 gets the Cy Yuck this week. Aside from Corbin, who was awful.
Yeah, right. That would be the other guy.
Yeah. All right, Benji. What did we see here?
I mean, I said a lot of it already. It's just 2 teams grinding it out, trying to find their way into the postseason. We know that James McCloskey did make it in 2019 in a full season. Of course, then we had 37 inning minimum. We had 13 ads. Now we're at 42 and 12, which he did take the number 1 spot in 2020 for what that's worth.
For what a 6-week regular season is worth.
Right. So both of these guys trying to get back to the postseason for the first time since 2020. Pretty good chance that one of them does do it. It's so hard for me to just kind of dissect like what these 2 teams are going to do. If I'm looking at both of these offenses, I pretty even, right? Yeah. Because if I'm going to tell you, like, the 4 stars on McCloskey's team is Ohtani, Garcia, Santander, and Corey Seager. And on the other side, on Frank's team, it's Goldschmidt, Lindor, Bregman. I guess the 4th one would be, I don't know. I guess
he's got a whole bunch of dudes that can count toward that number 4 spot, right?
Yeah. I can't say he's got a 4th star, and if you want to say like maybe Adolis Garcia isn't, but like I think Adolis Garcia leads the league in RBIs.
Yes,
I gotta count him.
Yeah.
But maybe as a whole, I like Frank's team more. We still got to figure out if Michael Harris is good or not. Like, he's had he's been hotter lately, but like he's still having a sophomore season. And I don't know what is Steve.
Yeah, if this is just a flash in the pan for this guy for another couple of weeks, and then he's back to hitting 180. Exactly.
I don't know. I probably like Frank's rotation more, but he doesn't have any closers. He's going to lose saves basically every single week.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, man. Both of these teams have holes. They're not gaping holes, right?
No.
And it's just going to come down to matchups. How they play against that opponent. They're both going to need help from other teams. It's going to be a very fascinating last few weeks for both of these clubs. What do you see?
I see a pair of hungry managers looking to get back into into a playoff picture, especially Frank, who hasn't done it in a full season yet. And this is now season 5 total for him. So I want to see him close this out. I want to see both of these guys close this out, because here's part of the story. We're about to get into my matchup here, and I'm still sitting toward the bottom. I've traded with both of these guys and lost both of those trades factually.
So far.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, to this point. If that's the story that Joe actually got taken for a couple of trades, and both of those guys make the playoffs off of it, let's fucking go, boys. Let's fucking go. I'm excited to see one of these guys make the playoffs. I'm hopeful that the other one is bounced out because I'm there. But I'll be happy with both of these guys making this playoff picture as exciting as it's going to be this year.
Yeah, it really is. And as of right now, it's just so hard to tell. I mean, you got a lot of guys that are over 500, and the guys that are under 500 are not far away at this point. I mean, a guy like Brian Lebo. Brian Lebo was actually one over as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So
we have 10 teams over 500 right now.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, it really is anybody's it could go any way. And let's not count your opponent from this past week out of it either. He could also potentially make a run.
That is a great segue, Benjamin, to my matchup here with Adam Lowenstein. What did you see?
I was highly surprised by the amount of power that Adam brought this week. I feel like that's not really something that he's done consistently through the season, and just a little surprised by it was like so much power, but such a duty batting average and on base percentage. It was just like a very, very unusual matchup, but you won the stats that I felt like I expected you to, except saves. But the fact that Adam had traded for Kimbrel, he had waited all this time to get Iglesias back, and now he's got himself a bullpen that can compete. And you traded for the Dodger group basically, and it ended up really working out this time.
Yeah, I was very happy with the fact that the Dodgers paid off this week and I was able to get that category. It just sort of always felt like my team is hitting better than yours. Why can't I pick up categories? And at some point homers was gone, but RBIs was absolutely in play. And runs was absolutely in play. And obviously doubles was in play because anyway. On Sunday, we were tied in walks, and Adam took that one from me. That's the only thing that changed. I close categories. I won by the 2 steals, 2 errors, the save that you mentioned, and 2 home runs given up by a pitcher. Adam wins by the double, the triple, and 2 wins, and we did not tie in anything. On my bench this week, right? This is mine. No, on Adam's bench this week, he goes 5 for 30.
Oh, well, 1 for 6? I don't know what that is. Shit. A 1 for 6 is it 188?
It's 167. It's a one with repeating 6 forever.
Yeah, 1. All right.
2 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts, and none of it plays. His moves this week, he added Wade Miley for Zach Davies, 6 innings, a win, 3 strikeouts, nothing earned, and an 0-50 in Cleveland on the 23rd. He added Dylan Carlson, 0 for 3 with a walk and 2 strikeouts, and then dropped Carlson for Carter Crawford, 6 innings, a loss, 2 bombs, a walk, 4 strikeouts, a 6 ERA, and a 1 whip in Chicago against the White Sox. He only used 3 ads and still beat me 12-9. Go figure. The MVP this week, Matt Olson, who had a monster week this week. 286 with a 375, 7 runs, a double, 5 homers, 9 RBIs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. If there is just one guy you can point to and say, yeah, this is kind of what you were talking about having a huge power week and a duty batting average, it's Matt Olson. Matt Olson is that guy. And I guess the whole team is sort of built similarly. Shout out to Ian Happ, who decided to just fist fuck my bunghole while I was in Brooklyn with the boys.
He was in London. Well,
he was in London. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was in
you were in
London
Brooklyn.
hitting 2 bombs while I'm just like, really? That's going to happen on Saturday? Thanks. Appreciate that. The least valuable hitter is Jack Sawinski, who didn't get a hit all week, 2 walks and 5 strikeouts. The Cy Young is Max Scherzer, who showed up 14 innings, 2 wins, 2 homers, 2 walks, 16 strikeouts, a 193 and an 093. And the Cy Young, well, that's Kyle Gibson, 3 innings, a loss, a bomb, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 15 and a 333. Yikes. For me on my bench, Benjamin, oh, they didn't do the math. It's going to be 2 for 7.
Oh, I think is that 286?
It is 286, my friend. Nailed it. Looks like 2 runs, a walk, 1 strikeout. Yep, that's it.
None of the plays.
My ads this week, and of course, as we know, Joe used all 12. On Monday, I dropped Alejandro Kirk for William Contreras. Kirk was on the IL. Contreras is my new starting catcher and probably will be for the rest of this season. I was really high on him coming into the year, and to get him for free essentially is really nice. I dropped Tyler Anderson for Andrew Heaney, 5 2/3, a win, 2 bombs, 6 strikeouts, a 318 and an 088 in Chicago against the White Sox. I dropped Heaney and Reese Olson for Angel De Los Santos with a clean relief appearance. Dropped De Los Santos for Sam Frelick. What team?
Reds?
It's going to be the Brewers, so it wasn't all that far off. He's going to be their center fielder at some point. I dropped Dustin May for Matthew Boyd, 6 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts, 3 ERA and a 1 WHIP. Dropped Shelby Miller for Brooks Raley, an inning, a walk, a strikeout, a 1 WHIP, and a relief appearance, and then added Ian Hamilton. He's the new kid on the block for the Yankees that was really good before he got hurt. I dropped Matthew Boyd for Tristan Beck, and we had talked about earlier in the show about these RPSP guys that you pick up, midweek going, oh, yeah, they're going to get a lengthy relief appearance at some point. Yeah. I waited until Sunday for that, and it was 2 1/3, a bomb, 3 walks, and a strikeout at 11:57 and a 3. Thank you so much for all of your help here, Tristan Beck.
Yeah, well, blame the manager, okay? Yeah. Because sometimes if you don't give a guy any work for a while and then just expect him to come in and shut the door, a lot of times that's not going to happen.
Exactly. Also added Kevin Kelly, for the former WWE announcer, for an inning and a 3rd relief appearance. Dropped Kevin Kelly for Tim Hill, an inning and a 3rd relief appearance. Dropped Raley and dropped Tim Hill for Angel De Los Santos again. And Brent Honeywell, an inning and 2/3, a walk, a 180, and a 180 whip. Nothing earned. Key players this week. I have written here for my MVP, quote, Yandy and Randy. Yandy Diaz, 476 with a 522 on base, 6 runs, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Randy Arozarena, 333 with a 407, 3 runs, a double, a homer, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts.
Yeah. With least valuable respect, I think Yandy is actually the MVP. When I hear those 2 numbers, I would give it to Diaz.
Yeah, a 476 average with a 522. Yeah, I'll take that. The least valuable hitter, Jared Kelenic, 143 with a 269. Run, double, 3 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. Not all that great. My Cy Young is Pablo Lopez, 11 2/3 with 2 losses, 4 walks, 19 strikeouts, a 540 and a 146. Yay. The Cy Young is Yanni Chirinos, who's no longer on the team. 5 1/3, a loss, 2 homers, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 1350 and a 206. Shout out to Tyler Glasnow, who gave me a 1246 in the 1 start, and I sat him on Sunday for the 12 strikeout game. That was fun. All right, man. Am I not a playoff team? Back me up on this. I'm not a playoff team, and that's okay.
I mean, listen, you are the king of making predictions way too flippant early. So I can't even hear that, man. You know what I mean? I, I think there's still enough time for you to fight back, and like it's the math is still there for you. Like
Yeah.
maybe the matchups, like I'm a tough matchup for you, and
Mhm.
like you might not crush me, but if you win 12-8, you're back on the winning track, you
It's a
know,
great
and
start.
right, that's what you need. Do you need a lot of help? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you not control what other teams are going to do when you're not playing them? Of course. But to say that you're just not a playoff team when I believe there are enough pieces here to do it, you know, so I'm not going to say you're out. There's only really 3 teams for me that aren't in it, you know, and you're not one of them for me.
Okay.
I will say that you have made some trades that probably fell into the favor of the other, like
Yes.
losing Seager, Santander, and Bregman. I would say those
Mhm.
3 offensive pieces, if you had those 3 guys with the other guys that you have right now, and obviously now you wouldn't have a Rosarena, you
Right.
know, that's fine, you know, but I think you would like to have at least 2 out of 3 of those guys back. And if you did, I do think your team would be in better shape as we're speaking right now. Like you'd probably be higher up in the standings. So as of right now, yeah, I do think those trades felt like worked against you.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
at the same time, you did improve in other areas. And I think your management is very solid. You know, I don't think that the only thing that I would say that you feel like you need to do every week, and I don't think it's necessary, is using all 12 ads because they're there. You know, like sometimes it's the moves you don't make. And there have been plenty of times where you add that reliever that blows up in your freaking face, you
Yeah.
know? And I just don't think it's necessary to use every one of the 12 ads. And as we can see, the teams that are at high at the standings, like they're not using 12 ads every week.
You're right.
So,
Not going to change it. Just always going to be that guy.
well, why?
Well, honestly, this week I was chasing relief appearances all fucking week, and somehow still couldn't even get within 5.
So then why is that where you delegated the ads?
How else am
Right?
I going to get more guys in?
Well, you're not, at some point you can say, you know what, I don't have to be married to getting that stat. You know what I mean?
But up until the weekend, it was competitive, and that's what I'm fighting for. I'm
Right.
seeing this thing very close all week
Right.
long. So now
Okay.
I'm not supposed to chase that?
Not necessarily. How many wins did you lose by?
2 of them.
Okay. Were there starting pitchers that were gettable to potentially get wins?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is my only point. Like you made the decision to go in this direction. They could be delegated elsewhere, right?
He got 6 relief appearances on Sunday. I got 4.
I'm
I'm
listen,
telling you, like this was what
I'm
I was chasing, and I got blown out in a couple of things.
right.
And yeah, okay, so I start the Tyler Glasnow start. He didn't get a win.
Mm-hmm.
I had 7 starts. I had 2 start weeks from 3 different dudes. So to try to go after more starters is not possible
Right.
when in the weekend I'm playing Yanni Chirinos as a reliever so
Okay.
that I can get him in after Gratterall was in for 2 straight days. Tristan Beck's in the starting pitcher spot trying to get a relief appearance there.
Okay.
Pablo Lopez and Freddie Peralta were starting on Saturday. And then the same situation on Sunday with Glasnow and Lugo starting on Sunday. Who did you want me to bench instead for a different starter?
I mean, I'd have to look, but you know, there were free agents out there that I didn't get them right. You know, there were Washington Nationals pitchers that got wins this
Yeah,
past week.
I threw 85 innings, man. I led
And
the league in innings pitched this
right,
week.
right. And got 26 walks. And that was one
Yeah.
stat that you lost substantially.
Yeah, and yet
A
still
lot
held
of
on to
those
home
were
runs.
Right. I mean, there was a lot of relievers that gave up walks as well. I mean,
Yeah,
dude, all I'm saying is that I think aggressive play sometimes doesn't fall in your favor. Sometimes it does work against you. And I could argue, if we really looked thoroughly at every single matchup and you using 12 ads, that there were plenty of that you didn't need to make because you did them, you lost these stats as a result.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt, and it does come on the pitching side, because this year I've been hating my pitching staff because I didn't draft a good one, and I've been trying to make up for it ever since.
Why would you say that you think that trading Sandy then was beneficial to you going forward? And I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying.
Right. Again, like I said last week with Jason, I needed to shore up a bullpen here because I had two guys that I could put in my lineup, and one of them is Miguel fucking Castro, right? I needed to get at least some guys to stabilize that so that I'm not using all 12 moves on relievers every week.
Right. And Miguel Castro doesn't really have the job. I mean, I see Magoo getting saves as well.
Yeah, he could be on the chopping block at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking at your schedule now, and I'm trying to see if it's, let's say, okay, so you got James McCloskey next week. That's a guy you can beat in saves. You got Brian Lebo the following week. That's a guy that you could beat in saves. Ari, absolutely. Josh, probably not. Matt Losi, yes. Mike Haber, probably not.
Yeah.
Jason could have gotten that no matter what, because he doesn't.
As long as I get one, it'll be set.
Bobby could go either way, and Christian, I would say probably not, but maybe. So when you look at it that way, yeah, like it's more helpful to have the bullpen for your schedule going forward versus Sandy, who maybe you can replace with said guy in free agency.
Yeah, or Seth Lugo is certainly a guy that I picked up back to the roster recently that can replace that.
Have no idea with him. And
It
has not only because of who we think he is, but like, what the fuck are the Padres, man? Like, why the hell is this happening? Is it the culture? Like, they lost to the Pirates today. And I mean, part of the reason is that Yu Darvish got scratched, which is a reason why I actually got really effed with my benching of Carlos Santana today. But this team is in some trouble, and they shouldn't be. Like, there's enough star power. I mean, we found out that Kim, of all players, has the most pitches per plate appearance than every player in baseball. I mean, that's like Kim. Right. That's the seventh best guy on their team, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, you would think that they'd be able to turn it around offensively. And if they are, a guy like Seth Lugo, his value rises, and like he should be better. He should be able to get more wins and more run support. But like, what is Seth Lugo? Like, you also need him to execute. So it's not a bad rotation, in my opinion. I think you're still like, I know you're really down on it. I don't think it's bad. I don't.
No, I don't think it's bad now. It was certainly bad a month or 6 weeks ago before I made these trades for Pablo and Bassett and got Glasnow back and picked up Lugo again. Like, the rotation when it was Sandy, Martin Perez, and Seth Lugo, gross, absolutely disgusting. And Martin Perez isn't somebody's picking up off the waiver wire right now anyway. So yeah, I do feel like I've made substantial upgrades in the rotation. I've made the substantial upgrade in the bullpen by moving a piece out of the rotation. And the offense is what the offense is going to be. These are the pieces. I can't do anything else at this point.
Right. I agree. This is the group that you're going with and you're going down with.
Yeah.
or that are going to bring you to the top. I do think that you really did decide that, like, the Rays, I'm going with the Rays, and either they're going to be hot or they're going to be cold. And if they're hot, you're going to have a great week. If they're cold, you might be in trouble.
It was the Rays and the Dodgers, and now that Max Muncy's back from injury officially, like, I can get back on that train.
Right. But that's not a guy that's having an excellent year. Like, he's a guy that's
in hindsight, I would have been happy to send him instead of Bregman. I would have been very happy if that were the deal, but
maybe Frank didn't want to do that. I mean, he didn't. Okay.
He did.
Yeah. Because I mean, Muncy is really a 3-outcome type of player, right?
For the most part.
Yeah. So let's talk about Adam's team, because, like, we've focused in on you since we finished talking about this matchup.
Dude, Matt Olson had a fucking monster day, a monster week for him. And the team is really built around a lot of power hitting guys that are going to, do essentially what they did this week.
Does he have enough in the rotation to fight now? I mean, Scherzer, he'd need to have a real turnaround second half. Yu Darvish going down now. Joe Ryan, like, he's had some really good starts. You could probably maybe call him the ace of the Twins staff, but how much do we like the Twins? Like, I like his bullpen, that the fact that he's got Alvarado and Kimbrel and Iglesias, though when the Phillies play against the Braves, then you're kind of, I mean, even though they're not going to play each other that many times, but even still,
Yeah, but it's still going to cancel each other out.
Right. And if it's like one team kills the other team, you're not getting any saves that match that day. So, yeah, I mean, I like the team. I don't like the offense, though, Joe. I think it's really one-dimensional for the most part.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that. And what you said about the rotation, if I had told you before the season started, you would have Max Scherzer, Yu Darvish, Joe Ryan as your top three, you'd be like, okay, I can live with that.
Work with that, yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly work with that. Now we're looking at, okay, so Max Scherzer has had a stop-start first half. Like, he's getting a fresh start again, and then we're going to give him a fresh start again.
Right,
and Darvish has been probably the most disappointing guy of the first half.
Correct. And the other thing with Scherzer is, you can, like, expect, like, Scherzer usually pitches to the back of the baseball card, but he's been bad in the first half. So you could either look at it in two ways. Either he's going to come around in the second half, or he's just getting older every 5 days, right? And not only that, like, the Mets are really underperforming. So even when he pitches well, maybe the team doesn't bring it offensively, or the bullpen blows it for him. So it's not like I wouldn't want Max Scherzer on my fantasy team. I mean, he's one of the very big reasons that I made the playoffs last year, in spite of the fact that he had a little IL stint. He still made 23 starts last year. Yeah. So he's still a nice player to have. It's just that these are unexpected, gaudy numbers for him so far. And what can we expect of him? What can we expect from Darvish when he comes back? I don't know. Between that and the offense, he's got a lot to do to get into a playoff spot.
No doubt. Both of us do, honestly. Both of us have a lot of work to do to try to get toward the playoffs. I don't know that. Listen, I don't think at the end of the day there are enough spots in the playoffs to have both of us get there, Adam and myself. I think one of us could, but realistically, we would need way too much to break right. We have way too many teams to jump over and not enough time to do it. Yeah,
probably, because you both need help from so many different aspects. Yes. And it's just, you got to think that at least a couple of the guys that are in the top 7, top 8 are going to be in.
Exactly. All right. No records to speak of this week, guys. It was just a regular week, so you didn't get anything special this week. That brings us to managers of the week here, Benjamin. And there's an interesting conversation that's been brewing this week over who it's going to be, because it was a pretty fun week. Who do you have at number 3 this week?
Number 3 was easy for me. I am going with Henry Collins, and it has
Me
nothing to
too.
do with the fact that he was my opponent, and I was watching it carefully. The only reason he's not higher is because of that benchings that he had. He probably could have had more stats when you actually look at it. And I think as a result, I was able to actually scratch out ones that maybe you could argue that I shouldn't have had, like doubles, tying RBIs, but I cannot ignore what he did here. He's put together a really fascinating roster, and he made me play from behind, even though I was in the lead the whole time. It already felt like, because he had done so much with the pitching, that I mean, there was a point where I think it was like 20, like nearly 20 innings, and he hadn't given up a run yet. At least
Yeah.
16 innings that he hadn't given up a run. And then maybe he gave up one by 20 innings. I'm just like, I'm not winning ERA. Nah, I'm
Right.
probably not going to win strikeouts or walks or runs. Now I just gotta get an innings pitch, and he just forced me to do that. And the fact that he was able to set himself up so they had 3 very favorable matchups starting pitching wise. Garrett Cole was the one that didn't get the win out of all of them, but he still put together this roster. He still constructed it.
Yeah.
Yes, he's tinkering a lot, but it does not. I'm not taking anything away from him. It's a double up, and he deserves number 3.
Double up win, biggest win of the week, a get right win for him after a couple of tough weeks. And he's right there in the middle of all of this. Absolutely, for all of those reasons and more, he's also my number 3. So that does beg the now questions, Benji. You had some difficulty here at 2 and 1. So who's number 2?
So tough. It was so tough, man. McCloskey is 2.
He is for me as well.
I love what he did, man. I really think he changed his luck. And it's not that it has nothing to do with him not putting Garcia back in on Tuesday, because it would not have mattered at all. It's really about what number 1 did, really. And we've talked about it in length of how James McCloskey was able to pull off a win against an extremely, in my opinion, hot manager, an extremely focused manager in Frank. And Frank was able to mitigate this thing. And I don't think that James McCloskey overplayed it in any way. Like he went with Gonsolin here. He didn't need it, but did not hurt himself enough to like give up that walks given up category. I give him a lot of credit, and he really should be number 1. It's just that this one particular manager was incredible.
It was Brian Lebo, wasn't it?
Well, tell me who your number 2.
McCloskey's my number 2.
Okay,
McCloskey's my number 2. The new strategy that I'm seeing here with the Mondays and Thursdays heavy bulk guys, and then tapering them out throughout the week as it goes, really, really worked here. And if this is going to be the strategy going forward, that it's okay, I'm going to have 3 or 4 spots on my roster that I grab a bunch on Monday and filter them out until Thursday when I do it again, and then be done for the week. That's a really, really smart way of looking at it. It does allow you to play toward the matchup while overloading against your opponent.
Yes. Well said.
Number 1 is Brian Lebo. What an incredible win.
What an incredible win is right. I mean, I feel like this matchup was basically Costas most of the way, including on Sunday, had the lead. And then all of a sudden, a 364 average, a 417 on base. He left a 1 for 4 with nothing, no counting stats, another 1 for 4 with nothing, no counting stats, only 2 strikeouts on the bench on Sunday, and 7 runs. He ends up taking that stat by 3. He gets 6 RBIs. He lost that stat by 3 rather, but he did win RBIs by 4. And the big thing here is the pitching. Okay. The fact that ERA, he wins by decimals, a 1.15 to a 1.15. And yes, he decided, you know what, this Stroman start, not worth it. I'm going to bench that guy. It would have blown up in his face. he loses that stat if he does decide to throw Stroman. He doesn't do it. I mean, this was about as savvy from the doctor as we've seen all season, and he's picking up steam. I mean, I realize that he's now grabbed like a couple of wins in a row here, and he's on a little bit of a streak, but now we're just seeing like more impressive stuff happen. How about the fact that on Sunday, he struck out 8 times, right? But he wins that stat anyway by 2. Like, it's almost like he felt like if I strike out this much, I can still win that stat somehow. I mean, everything seems savvy. Yes, the triple on Sunday is lucky. It came from Eduardo Escobar, because of course it did.
Because of course it did.
And he did it though, man. That's his ad. He went with him, you know. And
listen, he's also won 5 of his last 6 and 6 of his last 8. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about this dude picking up steam? This guy is a locomotive right now.
No doubt, no doubt. The doctor is in, man. And that Escobar play was on Sunday. I mean, he didn't even have him on the team on Saturday. It was after Escobar was part of that 26-run game that the Angels had. And he said, you know what? This is my third baseman tomorrow. I don't even know how he considered to do that, because, okay, fine. It's because Brian Hayes had the day off. So he was like, I want a third baseman that day. That was his guy. He took that risk that if he strikeouts 2 more times, he ends up tying that stat. That took balls, that was his guy. He strikes the triple on Sunday. That's part of the reason that he won this thing. But it was really the Stroman decision. I mean, he took some risks here. I mean, all these relievers, he still played them, right? Because relief appearances, he was kind of going for it. He ends up losing it by 7, so he was sort of chasing it down. But, you know, he knew that losses, he wasn't going to lose it 4-1. Sorry, no, I'm mistaken here. He took that risk too. Losses, he won by 1, 3-2. So he takes the risk of losing one from a reliever, but he wasn't going to do that with a starting pitcher. He said, no, Stroman can hurt me way more than he can help right now. With ERA, with the losses, he can sit his ass on the bench, and it worked. And
he nailed it.
He nailed it, man. As good as McCloskey was, I think Brian Lebo, the clutchness on Sunday is really what puts him over the edge here.
You know, I look at the middle of this pack right now from 4 to 10 of these guys who are fighting for this playoff. Frank, McCloskey, Bobby, Costas, Jason, Henry, and Brian Lebo. That's 7 guys for 3 spots.
Yeah.
That's where you're going to see the story, is among these 7 guys. And Adam Lowenstein's there, but there's just so many teams to jump.
Yeah.
I feel like it's U10 that we're going to be talking about. And eventually one more will fall out, and then another one will fall out around week 20.
Maybe, and we'll know. Maybe, or maybe not. You know, if everyone's going to be managing this well, we might not see a lot of lopsided scores. We just might see a lot of 11-8s, 11-9s, you know, throughout this. I don't know. I mean, this move, this Stroman decision, to not play him, was so not something that he was doing right back in 2021, when he was just start everybody, get innings, get strikeouts. Now it's oh, you know what? Walks given up, it's too close, losses, ERA, whip. Brilliant. Just brilliant. I mean, it's development of a manager. I mean, we knew the guy was intelligent. He was just he wasn't really in the big state of mind yet, right? Just not really a seasoned manager. And now he is really playing like a veteran. That
move was the one, huh? That's the one
oh my God. It's great. It was just great. It just and it might be something that like we all might have done. It's just something that I really don't expect from him until now, right? Like it's kind of the way that we talked about Josh Haber, right? Like we used to see kind of similar stuff from Josh Haber, and now it's like towards the weekend, he's really playing it by the score, by the numbers, by the matchup, right? Like, what are you going to do? What am I going to do as a response? And now, Joe, it's just like you really, whoever these top 6 are, you can truly say like, these are the guys that earned it because you know how hard that they've been working for 22 weeks. Like you'll go back and we'll look at the stats and we'll say, well, this guy was, let's say, for instance, 16-6 in home runs given up. And that's a big reason why he's in the playoffs, right? Because he did this, and that, you know, and it's just it's gonna be fun once we really, and also All-Star break, right? Because like that'll be enough of when we have that show and we start like really digging into the managers and how they've gotten to where they are, or the reason why they're towards the bottom. And we'll really get a good feeling of what these managers are trying to accomplish week to week. Like, what are their strategies? Has their strategy changed throughout the season? Have they kind of stuck to the same thing? Like, as for me, like you guys know that for the most part, like we talked about earlier, I've been a guy that inches to the minimum. Maybe last week was a different story, and now you
big outlier.
You got you know the tale why now. You know the story and the reason why it had to be. But like for the most part, like I've stuck to the same strategy. And a lot of these guys now, we're starting to see that they have their own specific strategy, or their strategies that they kind of just change it up every single time. So it'll definitely be fascinating, man. And we're really headed for a really exciting last month.
It's going to be absolutely insane, Benji. Thank you so much for being here with me, man. We're going to figure out what part 2 is going to be later this week, whether it's you and me, whether it's me and Jason. We've got a lot of balls up in the air right now for what's going on, but we're going to get it done, and you guys are going to catch another great episode here later this week. Thanks for being here, man.
It's a pleasure as always, man. And I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm really, really proud of this league. And as we wear these shirts with that same kind of pride, thanks to Jason for these shirts, our last names back. And this is because you started this podcast, Joe. And then now we're wearing them, right? And it was nice that yesterday, in a way, you know how I feel about team always before fantasy, but when you create something, right? When I made the bigs, I had no idea that at a baseball game, I'm watching this game and I'm kind of getting a little annoyed because the guys around me, the Joes, the Franks, and Jasons, are like, yeah, it'll be nice if he doesn't strike out, but he does get the hit. Just shut up about the bigs. I'm wearing to watch the Mets, but it goes to show how much you guys care about this league, this free league, non-money league, right? That we all play for pride, that we all play for this thing, right? Because we all want our names on it. That's what it's all about, man. And everybody wants a piece of it, and they know what it means. They know that if they're able to attain it, or even getting into the top 6, like there's a reason, like that's going to feel so special. So it's going to be really, really, really exciting, man. I'm really happy to do it. And it was a great show.
The 6 guys who are going to make it this year when I miss are going to be breaking the consecutive playoff record. And you know what? If I sneak in, so help me, 10 years in the playoffs, forget it. Guys, we would have absolutely nothing to talk about. We certainly wouldn't have these T-shirts, and we wouldn't have been featured on the Citi Field big board tonight if not for each and every one of you, and certainly not for Jason, if not for Jason Ashby, who created all of this for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, it has been real. It's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you guys next time.